I think best judgment would be to let it go.
Let it go. Okay, yeah. So we had a bit of a pre-discussion, so we're starting a little late tonight. Welcome everybody to the 30th of August Dallas Personal Robotics Group Robot Builders Night Virtual. And if somebody can shorten the name of everything, that would be great, because it's getting tiring to say every recording every week. But anyhow, we're going to do the usual and go around the table and talk about questions or what we've got going on. It's just our normal housekeeping. Nothing's changed on the left. So I won't go there. And the only thing we have formally coming up in the future is the second Saturday of November, Robo Columbus. We've just heard that one of our members, Scott, is planning to go to the Great White North. So he was trash talking and suggesting that the floor is open now for someone else to win. So we'll see what happens there. But then there's no other formal ideas yet, just a brainstorming list. And then just a reminder for anyone online that's not been here before, we do record these things. So if you'd rather not be recorded, either put in the chat as to stop recording, or just don't show your camera or say anything. And that's our practice here. Aside from that, we have a queue started up already with Scott, Ray, Pat, and David, and then open floor. So with that, I think, Scott, you had a question. So this is 2 for 2, because you were leading us off in the pre-meeting while we were getting rolling. So now you can lead us off in the formal meeting too. So have at it.
Well, I mean, I guess Ray actually started that whole conversation off. So, let's give credit where credit is due.
Good.
But no, my question's kind of for Doug or maybe you, Carl. I'm not sure what's going on with the email group. I have not received any emails from the DPRG group. Did I miss something? Was there some migration or some change that I'm not aware of?
No. I went through the group. In fact, I went through the group today. I don't know if the way the group works is if it tries to send you a message and for some reason it doesn't make it to you, okay, then it essentially says, well, we've tried 6 times or 10 times, and this guy, we just won't send, we're not going to keep pestering him. We won't send him anymore. And it cuts you off. So I went through the list this weekend, and I actually said, oh, I'm sure he wants to be on the list. Paul was off the list. I remember that. So I put him back on. Scott, I'm not sure about you. A lot of people are on the list and don't have any problems. So I don't know. I think Kareem was off the list. And that might be if Kareem has changed his email from what's on the list. There might be a reason why that's not going. I don't know. I don't know exactly what causes it. I can probably increase the number. So I'm going to be looking at that in the near future. But the list hasn't been very active too. Okay, so that's why, I know I did this about 2 months ago, and I was kicked off the list. And so, I looked at it and I said, no, that could explain something. And so I put it back on. But so all I can say is you should, if you're joining or following the group, you should, 1, subscribe to the website. That's not a mailing list subscription. That's just so that whenever a new post goes out, you get notified that the new post has gone out. So that's going to be probably at the extreme most, it'd be two a week, and typically 1. And then, because we always put this guy out, that's a new post. So that would be 1. And then I would get on the mailing list. And don't get whatever you do, check your list and make sure you're not including the Robo-Rama committee 1. can't remember what it's called. It's DPRG. Give me a second. Otherwise, you want to be on DPR lists. If you have this, what happens is somebody gets on that, and our biggest problem child is Carl, and he puts on there as one of the other people the Roborama committee. Okay, and if that goes up there, it's automatically nobody's looking at it. And if you're not on the list, it's going to say you tried to get on, you tried to post the one that you're not a member of. And that's probably not a good one, not a good thing. So you don't want to do that.
I haven't sent a note to that in years.
Well, somewhere, Carl, I think if you were to, when you must have maybe you have both of them on there. I don't know. But I would say whatever that contact is, just delete it. And it was the one, it's literally roborama_committee@list.dprg.org. Because that was a small temporary mailing list that only had a few people who were trying to organize the Roborama a couple of years ago. All right, so that's the only thing I can know. I can, like I say, I'll probably have to dig into it, but if you don't have any, send me a mail and I'll check and make sure personally on your email if it's active. But like I say, I haven't, I got to admit, I'm not even, this meeting kind of almost makes that mailing list redundant, because we are face to face so often that the amount of mail on it is pretty slim. But it's still another handy tool. We occasionally get something on it.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be the source of a lot of back and forth discussion.
Yeah. And this thing that Carl said, I've seen that too. And I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that.
When was that? Oh, that was just the recent one?
Well, that's what happens when Google has made some change. I'm not sure. I don't follow the web business enough to know exactly what change they made. But a whole class of email addresses now flash that particular ones. And even some companies, I mean, people that I've had some spam buddies I've had for years, and all of a sudden they're flashing that. So I'm not sure exactly what change Google made. So if anybody finds out, I'd appreciate if they would enlighten me. So
you were mentioning registering on the website. I mean, is there, other than having you look into it, is there something I could do on my end to re-register or something?
Well, no, you can if you go, let me pull up the website for me so I can see where it is. It's under info. All right. If you go to dprg.org/info, no, it's called general info. If you go down that tab, there's the mailing list. And if you're on the mailing list, you'll see it says make changes to my subscription. Okay. So if you can click on that and it'll open up this an interface that asks for your email and your password. Okay. Now, I believe, let's see. I'm not sure they give you a choice to, let's see. Oh, yeah, and they have a password reminder button. So if you push on the remind, it'll send your password to you. Now, that's not very secure, but that's the way. This is, List is a pretty old program. Okay.
Okay.
Do you guys want me to show that on by chat, or do you, Carl?
Well, I'm on DPRG.org general-info now, and I mean I see the current officers.
No, okay, no, we'll go down there. There's a place that says mail list. It's a sub-tab item.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah, I see now.
And then on that, when you hit the mail list, there's 3 things you can do. You can join, you can make changes, or you can look at the mailing list archives. By the way, hi, Will.
Okay.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it looks like it just needs to be reset. It won't let me log in.
Okay. Well, I'd send yourself a reminder and see if you get your password, because I know I don't know mine. I probably have to. I'd have to look that one up. So,
well, I mean, I was counting on Google to have the right ones.
yeah.
All right, I'll dig into it some more.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
So Carl just sent out a message. How long does it usually take for messages to get reflected and bounced to the recipients? Because I think I've got the same problem as not sure who it was talking about. Scott was talking about where I don't get the emails, but I can log into the site and I can see the emails on the list, and I haven't got any of them.
Yeah. Well, I just turned you back on, Paul. That's what I was saying. You were.
Oh, okay.
You had too many. I don't know what they call them, bounces or something. I believe they call them bounces.
Okay.
You had too many bounces, and it said, "Oh, it's not a real person. He's a robot."
Huh.
So anyway, they popped you off. But you should be able to see that on your membership. There will be a place where it says no mail, and it'll give a reason. When you go look at your thing, if that happens. And I don't know, like I say, some mail carriers seem to be worse than others. Okay, because some of us here never have any problems. I'm not saying me, but I'm saying some other people I know, I think for some reason Pat's got no problem. I don't think I've ever had to reset Pat. So whatever he's doing it right. So,
So where do you find the mail is turned off under my account?
Yeah, I think you have to. I don't know. I haven't actually looked into that. I know as the administrator, I can see it. But I would assume that you could see your own line. So what do you like when you actually get into it?
I'm logged in, and I can see under my account the dashboard.
Do you have a menu up at the top of different things?
Yeah.
You might want to check and see what options you've got turned on. There's some options that you can change, like you can have a digest or no digest. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend. Our stuff you should never be on a digest with the frequency of our email.
Okay.
Because if you're on digest, the best it would do is send you one a week.
I bet that's a problem. Thanks for the tip.
Yeah, so you never want to be on a digest for one that's as low count as ours.
Yeah. You
usually want to know as fast as it gets sent.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Now the other thing that can happen is if for some reason the message gets rejected, and I've upped all the limits on that over and over again to try to keep that to a minimum. But originally, if you put a picture inside of a post, it would trip it because it would be too big, and it would say, no, you can't just send something that way. Now it just strips it out. So like if you went to the archives, there's no pictures in archives. They're just descriptions. Okay, so if you really want to send, and I believe at one time you couldn't put a link in, but I think now you can put a link in. So, because, you know, one of the things I would say, we've been very secure in the past. We've never had I've never been bombed with a bunch of crap messages. So I don't see how it goes. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, there's probably a bunch of us that need to fix our emails now, Doug.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just see. Like I say, you know, that's the other thing too. If you've got, let's say you're pointing it to one of your throwaway emails that you had 5 years ago, and you haven't looked at it in 3 years, you know, you may not see any messages. I mean, it happens, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think next in line we had Ray. Ray, what you got?
Ray.
Microphone on. There we go.
Okay.
I was looking at some of the radar distance measurement devices, and I wondered if anybody else had any interest in those. It seems like there's one company that made it, a Chinese company. It'd be for devices like the FMK 24-A5200, if that means anything to anybody.
Mhm.
I guess there's different ways to configure them. It's not like they give you a file to download to, you know, configure the part. So you pretty much have to buy the one with the correct configuration, and there can be, you know, it can report, you know, single objects, multiple objects. You can change the reference point. It could be something reflective in behind the objects that, you know, so the distance is from whatever that reflective material is, a sheet of metal or something, to the object, or it could be from the sensor to the object without any reflector. And there's I don't know how many different configurations there are. I think there's at least 6. Some of them, you know, some of the radar detectors, they'll detect motion, but they won't give you a distance. They just know that something is moving in the field of view of the detector. And I wasn't interested in those because I don't want to know if something is moving. I want to know how far in front, like an obstacle is. Anyway, it doesn't, or it's not going to tell you in the field of view at which angle that obstacle is. It just tells you that there's an obstacle there. They have kind of narrow, flat, you know, fields of view, like maybe 30 degrees vertically and maybe 80 degrees horizontally. So as far as a moving platform, that might be a good thing. The one that I was interested in, that part number, it's good for 20 meters, which is way more than what I would ever use. So I'd be more concerned with things closer up. If anything's further back, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's nice, but more concerned with stuff in the front. You know, impervious to sound, light, you know, temperature changes. So those things are good. I know there's an issue with ultrasonics if it's too windy. You know, with like laser rangefinders, if there's too much light, you know, there's all kinds of, I guess there's no perfect sensor out there. But anyway, I just wondered if anybody else was interested or had looked at those at one point. No.
I think they're interesting. Can you say the password? Is there any data on the part number that you quoted before? And if so, can you say the part number again?
Yeah, it's FMR 24-A5200.
Can you put that in the chat, Ray?
Sure.
In the company, whatever the company is or website.
Okay, FMR 24.
Yeah, because I'm not finding, Google's not finding anything with a number like that.
Okay. They're on AliExpress. They're on eBay as well. If let's see if I can just do a search and let's see.
Ray, are you talking about more like a time of flight, like a LiDAR, 3D, 2D LiDAR kind of setup, or because you mentioned radar, which, you know, would be a whole different technology as far as, you know, the cone and the resolution of the data.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Here's some information. Let's see. Copy. Put it in the chat. Paste. Anyway, that's a website that lists it. And there's, like I said, there's at least 6 variations that, you know, there's, I don't know, it's I think a Chinese website translated into English, but there's not a lot of information on it. But that was the model that I had the most interest in because of the way it reports back the data. It looks like the ones on eBay, you know, you can get them with a display. Of course, the ones on eBay are more than twice as much as this one was. But I don't know. It kind of looked interesting, and you know, I thought, okay, it's just wanted to kind of see how well it worked or didn't work. All about sensor.
I don't know. Just looking at the link you put in there, it would, on first blush, I don't know that you're going to get location information. It doesn't really show what the dispersion angle is, you know, what the cone size is, does it?
It should say in there's a little.
So the range measurement's 20 meters and
Yeah, one of the, I think
but it doesn't say what the, you know, what the.
I think that's under the antenna pattern.
What the patterns look like. And so, you know, from that, I think pretty much, let's see here if I can click on that. Come on, make it bigger. Yeah, so they say their antenna pattern horizontal is 78 degrees and antenna pattern vertical is, this one says 23 degrees. So it's, you know, and it's not a rectangular, you know.
Well, but if you, so you project that out for this 20-meter depth is what it's showing, right? I mean,
right.
That's a pretty big field of vision, right? I mean,
oh yeah, that's like I said, 20 meters is way more than I would ever need. I mean, I'm just really more concerned, you know, maybe a meter in front of the robot frame. You know, I don't really care what's 60, more than 60 feet away. I mean, hell, that may be way beyond the next cone. I don't know.
Yeah,
well,
that'd be everything. You'd be always getting a signal somewhere. 60
well,
feet.
I think you get back to that problem that I was talking about earlier with what was it, 78-degree vision, right? You're gonna, within a foot or two of the robot frame, you're going to be looking at objects that you could drive right by, right? And they're going to be closer than some distance. And you're not going to know that they're actually off to the side, because all you're going to see is that one value. Okay, there's an object within this cone, right? But you don't know that where that cone is reading is really outside of, that
the robot's
tunnel that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I'm certainly wouldn't have any interest in things that far out.
Yeah.
Like I said, maybe a few feet in, or from the front of the robot frame. But beyond that, I mean,
well, that's the same issue I had with the sonar, because the sonar are like, I think 15 degrees. So that's even a tighter cone than what you're talking about. And what is it, the max sonar sensors, the ones you can get from Spark Fun or whoever sells them, they sell them in different strengths. I actually went through and went from a very, the most sensitive ones to the most least sensitive ones, just so that you didn't have that, I just called it like headlight glare, because you just saw everything all the time.
Yeah.
And if you remember my sonar array back then, I had either 3 or 5 at, 15-degree angles. But the stronger the field of view, or the larger, the stronger the pattern was, then it just became overwhelming, and you couldn't really pinpoint what was in front of you. You just knew, okay, there's something in front of me, but I don't know which. It's hard to tell which way to turn to actually get around it. And that's the second thing about avoiding an object is, okay, I know there's something in front of me, but which way do I turn to go around it, right? What's the most effective path around this? And that's where knowing what's having a more resolution is helpful. And that's where I found, so I'm using this Cybot Side G LiDAR. Spark Fun sells it, and I'm looking at it. It's really small, but it has 120-degree field of view, and I think it's like 80-degree. But that's a grid, so you get a distance measurement for each angle or each grid in there. It's a lot of data to sift through, but you can, and that's what I was saying earlier, is okay, within this area that I care about, this is the distance, and then within these other peripherals, I can allow a shorter distance without reacting to it, because I know that is on my peripherals, and I'm not gonna run into it
on your periphery. Can you put the part number in the chat?
Yeah, it's 18580 here. I'll post a link to it.
Okay, I'd be kind of curious about what that is.
Ray, I'm looking up something on Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the exact same module. Like you said, there's probably gazillions of them.
Yeah.
But this one essentially says it's compared with its non-contact detection, moving object detection using Doppler radar technology, compared with the traditional eye infrared feeling PIR. And if it's like a PIR, that I don't see a whole lot of
I think a lot of them can be used with the PIR. In fact, I had my old alarm system. It was a combination radar PIR, and apparently they could set it up that, I guess, if one didn't trip, the other could trip, and I think it was pretty good with human body detection, and But yeah, this one it doesn't have a PIR on it. It's just
No,
radar.
I'm saying they're saying it's equivalent to like a PIR, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
saying if it's that all you know is that somewhere out there something moved. That's all you know.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
this one would actually gives you distances back, and that's what I
Uh-huh.
was most interested in.
Gotcha.
And it seems like there's, with all the variations, if you don't pay attention to how the thing is actually set up, what software is in it and driving it, that you could get something that you didn't expect. But you really have to dig and find, okay, what is this thing actually doing and how is it set up? And
Yeah. I think broadly radars are interesting, but this particular one seems to be, it's got such a wide field of view, and some of the different models, if I'm understanding their web page correctly, are either aimed at object motion sensing or at level sensing, like liquid or solid level sensing in a hopper. And that's where the wide field of view is advantageous, and you just like take the first reflection that comes back, but it doesn't really give you the kind of narrow cone that Scott was talking about.
Oh, that's true. It does not. Yeah. And it's just going to give you a distance. It's not going to tell you in its field of view where that, what angle that object is at.
Right.
So there's that as well. But
well, that was one of the things I liked about this LiDAR. And I'm looking at the specs now, and it's actually 120 degrees horizontal and 65 degrees vertical. Or you can run it just in 2D mode, so you get basically 120 degrees. But then you can, like, we were talking about the fence issue before.
Yeah.
Like the hot spots or the areas of interest, like I was looking at, and I definitely need to do more playing with it, but I kind of always felt that you could average that out if you enlarge the area and you say, okay, what's the average distance in this area? Because you would, with that kind of resolution, because you get, one sample for each 3D and 3D space. So I can average out a particular area because okay, within this part of the map, this is going to be in my peripheral. So I always thought that it was, that much data is difficult to work with, but it gives you a lot of accuracy in what you're looking at. It's just the difficult part is how do you interpret it and how do you react to it? I just hadn't played with it enough, but I think it shows a lot of promise. I'd rather have too much data than not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway, I was kind of curious if anybody else had looked at those, and they've been out for that. I think that version's been out for, what?
Yeah.
4 years now. I think came out in 2018. But there's, it doesn't seem like that many people are offering them. So I don't know, maybe.
Well, the application I've seen them used for is our company uses them on escalators. So they can monitor traffic of people walking up to the escalator and start it up, because what they'll do is they'll time out and then they'll slow the escalator down so that it uses less energy, and then eventually they'll shut it off. So if it sees someone walking up, and I think in an environment like that, it's, a wider cone, like Paul was talking about, is more advantageous because you don't really care where it's coming from. Because in that situation, where they're going, right? So they're getting on the escalator, so we need to start it up. So I've seen them used in stuff like that.
That seems to be a big use. Human presence detection,
the automatic doors, like the grocery store and at Home Depot, that's the technology they use as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and one of the trade-offs in radar is what frequency they're using, and this one that you linked to uses 24 gigahertz. SparkFun has a pulsed radar sensor at that works at 60 gigahertz. And I'm not a radar expert by any means, but as I understand it, the higher the frequency, the finer the resolution of the thing that it can pick up. So if you've got a lower frequency, the wavelengths are longer and it might not see some things like poles.
Mm.
So it's something to consider. I mean, I think radar is interesting, and we used some of it on our trucks, but they had a lot of processing behind them, so we never saw the raw data. And this looks like this particular one looks like it's shy on the kinds of features that you'd want for obstacle detection.
Okay.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
Were you planning on using that LiDAR outdoors? Because I just looked at the specs and it says the environment's an indoors.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that still got to be validated. But yeah,
Okay.
I saw that. It says best suited for indoor use. Doesn't say only. So
yeah, I know when we were looking back at these and one of the previous ones, we found one that I can't remember. It was 50K lux, which would be normal outdoors without bright sun. So they are getting some that are getting there.
Yeah. So what is full sun? Is that more like 100,000 lux?
Yeah, 100K lux.
100K lux. Okay. Yeah.
That's Texas sun. Actually, it could be higher than that, but if you don't have a spec that says at least 100K lux, you're probably not going to get it.
Yeah, or it'll have a hard time working outside.
Yeah. Well,
we'll have to look at what the weather's going to be like that day on the contest.
So like today, it's been dreary all day. 50K lux would be fine.
Yep.
So, if you went out today and you played around with it, everything would work. Or should work,
Yeah.
And you go out the day of the contest and the sun's bearing down and drying everything out, you'd find out what happened. So,
yeah. Nothing. Your robot's going in a circle looking for something orange.
Yeah.
It worked at home.
Yeah, there you go.
well, no, that's when I
just before it rained.
take it off of Belch and I put it on CanMan and use it indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still tough. There's not a.
But I haven't found a good, really decent outdoor sensor yet. I've been using sonar, and I have so much trouble with, especially windy conditions here in Texas, is always a problem. And it's just never seems to be enough resolution or enough consistency. I've always had problems with them getting damaged, or I even had to set up a circuit to cycle power on them. And maybe those were the particular ones I was using. But so, I went with this just thinking, I'm going to try something different and something new and, get a lot more data and see what I can do with it. But I haven't really got to a point other than, playing around with it on my workbench, because I haven't got the platform actually moving that well yet. So, and that's one of the reasons I was saying, there's no way I'll be ready by October anyway with this robot. So,
it's a good thing you're going to be out of town.
Yeah, it's good. It's a damn good thing. That's the way I planned it. But, at the rate it's going, I'll be good to be done by next year.
Next year, yeah. Probably me too. Yeah. I've used the I think we used to call it the LiDAR light. It was before. I think it might be the second version of the LiDAR light, and that's worked in it was a bright sunny day, so I didn't have a light meter out there with me. I don't know what the intensity was, but I could get readings. Let's see, from where I was. I know that one I thought went out to like 30 meters, but
actually I think it's longer than that. But
was it?
You're right. The LiDAR lights the LiDAR lights if you don't have the first one.
Yeah.
The first one had I2C problems. And I think that one, Scott, what you were talking about, it dropping out and stuff like that, that sounds like an early LiDAR light. But if you have the newest one, which is, I think, pretty expensive, but, or the
Spy,
two, huh?
It's SPY, not I2C.
No, but they fixed most of the problems.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, you know, if you're just looking for LiDARs, a good, you know, Canada's robot shop,
Mm-hmm.
if you just search under LiDARs, they have about anything that's on the market.
Yeah, they
They got it all, you know, and if you sort through all of those, and I've had at up to 12 meters, I've had pretty good luck with the little
Benawaki.
ones. Those actually do surprisingly well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a spot,
Right.
yeah.
Or a
You know,
line. Yeah.
so where Scott was saying, you had too much width in his van. Here you don't have that problem.
Mm.
But if something is over, if you're trying to get around that telephone pole, you better be pointed at it, because if you're pointed off to the side of it, you're going to get one of your wheels and scrape down the whole thing. So
I think David had made the comment a while back that, if you're only looking at one spot, there's a lot of spots you're not looking at.
yeah.
And no, I looked it up. These Max Sonar, these EZs are the ones that I was using quite a bit, and that I was talking about seem to be a little fragile or difficult, because when they do lock up, then the only way I found was you have to cycle power on them. So I actually had a high side driver I put in there and was able to control it. And if the value maxed out and stayed the same for however long it was, I just cycled power on all of them and reset them. And then I started getting decent range findings again, because they would get locked up and basically they would just saturate out. And like I said, you couldn't reset them until you just cycle power on them. So that helped quite a bit. But again, they have different strengths, so you get different sizes of the field of view. And the smaller field of view seemed to work much better for me, without getting a lot of overlaps. That way you could really just say, okay, there's something over here versus something kind of in this general direction. Now you knew it was in here. But they're kind of pricey, and like I said, I didn't seem to really have good luck with them. So
are you talking about the sonars, the Max? Yeah, I've hit a lot of things with those in front of me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know exactly what I didn't do enough. Didn't do enough homework to see if they were locking up. All I knew was it just didn't seem to work very good.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time messing with those and, playing with them and trying to figure out what was going on, if it was, what was causing them to lock up. And once they did, what can you do to reset it? And because they even had, I was just doing mine kind of analog. So I just pinged it. I think you initialized it and then you got an analog reading out of it. And, even that, it would just, like I said, it would just stop working and just saturate out like something was right in front of you. And then, of course, your robots keeps backing up saying, oh, God, I can't bump into that. But there's really nothing in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
We'll see how it works. It's on there now.
I'm sorry, I was offline. Are we talking about LiDARs or sonars?
Well, we switched.
It started out with radar.
Yeah, we started off with radar. Yeah. And then we moved to LiDARs. And then we started talking about sonars.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. And now we don't know what we're going to talk about.
Well, I just found this perfect and infallible sensor. You're all going to want to know about it. Bye.
Okay. Huh?
It's the holy grail of sensors. Oh my God, he's found it.
Man, and you got to be a tease, huh? Oh, there it is.
I'm not seeing anything. What is it?
It's only $3 a pop, too.
All
Are
right.
you sure?
Amazing.
Unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything.
I can't see his video.
Yeah,
No.
I can't either.
What are you sharing, if anything? I don't see anything.
Who is sharing?
Are you?
Oh, I see. You,
I'm not
that's
sharing
a-
it.
You were showing a Mac Stoner. I think that's what we were talking about. And we were saying they didn't work very well. You were saying this one's good?
No, I posted that sonar link.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. I must be.
Cream's pulling our leg again.
I
Okay.
think so.
he must-
Yeah,
If you-
obviously. There's no such thing as a perfect sensor.
Well, there's literally perfect, and then there's figuratively perfect. So
You get
literally,
a perfect sensor in a virtual simulation, but that's about it.
There you go. In a
Yeah.
virtual world.
You had a good day today. He's off the rails.
Sorry, man.
It's all right.
I thought that was obvious.
Ooh, baby, yeah, okay.
Well, I guess everybody wants it so bad.
Yeah.
You know, that's,
What is it? What
give me,
is
give me, give me, give me.
Don't be a tease now. Yeah.
Goodness, sensors are us. Okay, if we run this one into the proverbial virtual wall, so
I think we do.
so.
okay. So next in line, I think we had Pat, who's been very patiently
Yeah, that's patience.
patient, and then David is after Pat. So,
Okay.
Pat, do you even remember what you were going to bring up, or has it been so many moons ago?
It was a while ago. No, I had a question on all you contest aficionados out there that have done the 6-can competition. Has anyone ever tried using a compass or a magnetometer with like a rare earth magnet in a location? So
And
that
how?
you always have a heading to that magnet.
Well, that's actually a good idea. Now, Pat, you, according to the rules, it'd have to be outside outside of the arena, and it could only be on the sides.
Yeah. So if
Yeah,
you put it on one
that's
corner-
actually a really clever idea, Pat.
So I'm thinking like get a couple ounce rare earth magnet, put it in the corner, and it'll give you a direction to, I'm hoping. And before I bought one, I wanted to see if it would work.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't know.
fall off
Nobody's
is-
tried it, so I can't tell you if it would work. But I would say that it sounds like a good idea. And like
Well, I can tell you the fall off is pretty rapid.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I have a rare earth magnet that's probably I don't remember what its actual rating was, but it's probably 10 ounces or something like that. It's a big one.
Okay.
And
that's a big one.
and you can test it with a compass, just
Right.
seeing when it starts deflecting. That giant one starts falling off pretty rapidly after about like 3 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So
you gotta remember
the question becomes
how big-
either two of them in opposite corners.
Well,
Creating
if you could
magnetic-
get 3 feet, it would be useful. The
Yeah.
reason why I'm saying that is because the actual arena, I want to say, is 5 by 7.
I
It's
thought it
7
was
by 10,
10 by 7.
Huh? It's 10 by 7?
10 by 7, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
I think
so
it
it's,
is.
it's wider than I thought it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
But
you're in
anyways-
trouble when all the chairs start moving towards the course.
But the other thought, Pat, is that you could maneuver close to the wall as part of your orientation routine. Okay. Otherwise, there's no reason why you have to be down in the middle of the course. You got to pick up, you got to find your first can. You got to find your can and move to it. But the real problem you want to do is if you're in soccer, you're going to get bumped. That's going to happen. So you have to figure out how you can recover from it. If you're just doing 6 can, in theory, your odometry should be good enough to get you all the way through without any problem.
Yep.
Okay.
You don't want to use a magnet that powerful, believe me. It's like
Okay.
it'll attract everything that as you're walking by the I don't know why I have bolts in my pockets, but it's hazardous. Yeah, you get near it with anything metal and
Pull the bolt out of your pocket.
yeah.
Like Breaking Bad.
When you buy magnets like that, I mean, they come with severe warnings about finger crush hazards, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Pinching,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you can. So
Okay.
I was
Back
going to
to
go
my-
for another. Go ahead, Pat.
Back to my other source that I was looking at, and I guess I'll go to uranium-238.
That's
There you go.
probably got better
Isotope.
range. But so you're.
I
it sounds
think
like
you
you're
set off
looking
a new bomb that you can probably detect where it is.
Don't be a wimp. Go straight to plutonium.
So
What
you're
was that
looking
thing?
for an orientation index, right?
Yeah.
Is that, Pat, what you're looking
Yeah,
for?
that's what I'm looking for, so that I'll always know which way a certain direction is, no matter which way I'm facing.
Yeah.
And
Can
So
you
basically-
use ultrasound or some kind of sound ping? It pings. Is that against the rules?
No, you can use sound, but then there's cans in the way as well.
Because could you use a certain frequency that it would recognize that frequency,
Balls and everything.
or is that too complicated?
Oh, I see what he's saying.
Oh,
No,
the
you
direction-
might be able to do something like a shotgun source, where a tube in front of a small speaker that's running at a single frequency and the tube is tuned to that frequency. You could do something like that. But hey guys, that's so much overkill. I mean, I love the creativity, but for 6 cans, you should be, like I say, you should be able to drive it through, and you should be able to use the walls to determine where you are. Otherwise, if you got, what is it? Is it 6, 7 feet? So
7
if you,
foot, yeah.
It depends how fast you're going.
well, you could be going fast, but that's true. But you might want to say, before I get the next scan, I'm going to pause just long enough for me to get a reading. Okay.
Pat, there's a website,
You're looking for a corner.
Electronics Gold Mine. They sell a lot of. It seems like a lot of them came from Russia. They're little Geiger counters. Work on 9-volt batteries. So if you're going to go with the radioactive source, you could shield the backside of it with lead so it's directional. And then
Wear your lead apron when you're on
that's
the
right.
course.
When you're playing, yeah.
If your robot's glowing, you're close.
Yeah. Go to the glow, yeah.
I wasn't looking for position. I was looking for hitting. So
Yeah.
which way is my robot pointing?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
yeah,
one-
that would give it to
Yeah.
you if you're, using a directional Geiger counter to.
If you have Harold wear a real bright T-shirt, that works too.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
worked with Ray.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, I used.
Fiducials.
Yeah, more or less a fiducial. Just.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
Big.
Big fiducials.
Yeah, like Doug was saying, and that's what I do is I locate based on where the walls are, because the size of the course. So where the walls are tells you where you are. But and that's the same thing like Ray does, where he goes through and he scans and he tries to find the opening. And in a sense, that's where, you're trying to determine where you are, right? Because you're going, this is where I need to be.
Well, I know Ray has a couple of times got turned around and went out the other way. So so I think the fiducials were trying to fix that problem too. So
well, that's why I was using these. I would stick this at the end of the goal that I wanted to drop the can off, and I always rotate counterclockwise. So when this comes into the field of view on the left side, I know I'm pretty much pointing at the goal. And then I scan the LiDAR and look for the opening, basically, and then try to figure out where the center is. And it's kind of like a rotate, point and shoot to find the goal.
Yeah, one thing that's not so obvious, I mean, after you run it once, you'll know this, but so here's your robot, here's the goal. The first time, after you get your first can, you're going this way. All right, so you drop off your can. Now you turn around. Okay, so now you're going back towards your original position to find a can. And if you don't think about that properly, you will get confused. So otherwise, the first can is different from all the other cans.
Yep. Yeah, your first can, you're heading towards the goal, and ideally you pick up a can on the way and head towards the goal.
Yeah.
After that, you're doing an about face every time you're either going towards the goal or towards a can.
Right.
Yep.
Well, but like Doug was saying is, in soccer, there's another robot out there, right? So you may want to avoid them, or you may get pushed by them. So you have to have, and I mean, we've talked about it lots in this group about, straight odometry is just wrought with failure. And the longer you run it without some sort of reset or some sort of calibration, the further off you continue to get. And no one in this group's been able to find a solution for that. So in that particular case, you have a very constrained environment, right? You're in a 7x10 box that has openings at these particular locations. So you have very strict keys to say, okay, this is where I'm at in my environment, because it's so defined of an environment, if you will.
Yeah, David Anderson seems to solve that relatively well by just aligning with the wall.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is you have to have a periodic calibration, whether you align with the wall or align to some known entity, right? Then, but it's the same thing, is you're still recalibrating, you're still resetting your position based on some known factor or some known identification in your environment, right?
Yeah.
In the can contest, the walls are your environment, and that's what you can. And like what I do is my LiDAR scans actually above the cans, because one of the challenges you have is when you're scanning your environment, what's a wall and what's a can, right? You can't just say or use something like Ray was talking about, where I just have an object here, right? You've got to know where that object is, and you got to be able to locate it and pick it up. So you have to have a cognitive ability to say, okay, I'm here in the environment. And also, like you were saying, is what direction am I heading? Where does this can need to go? And the more you can locate yourself in that environment, the more accurate you're going to be.
Right. Yeah, and like I say, if you're playing the soccer, which is much harder, because you are going to, you can say, well, I'm going to avoid the robot. That sounds good, but you don't really have it. The other guy is kind of like, the intent of the other robot was to be a free agent. So it's, even if you're not aggressively going after each other, if you got this thing that you don't know where it's going to go, because, he may decide to go for the same can that you're going. So you're going to, at some point, you're going to converge. I mean, it doesn't even mean that you're, trying to mess them up. You're just going to hit because you're going to the same can. So you have to have something that's going to be able to correct that situation. So avoidance is really not a very good strategy, because you're not going to be able to avoid them, or at least unless you're really lucky.
Well, I have.
The other guy's going to get all the cans while you're avoiding.
Yeah. Well, I have an attempt at obstacle avoidance, because one of the rules is you can only pick up one can at a time, right? So, there's been times where you have to kind of drive around a can that's you say you already have one picked up and, you're going to drop it off. That hadn't always worked that well on my robot, but there are some videos where you can see it driving around the can. Doug's right, though. Like in soccer, trying to actually avoid the other robot, you can try, but eventually, you're probably not going to be successful eventually, because there's always, and I think that's one of the things that makes it a lot more fun, was there's a lot more interaction and more potential for calamity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know why it happened, but in some of the matches, I would bump Doug early, and it would, throw off his odometry, and he couldn't find the goal on the other end. He'd run into the side, and it's kind of like
that happens. But so that's why you got to have a corrective thing. You can't.
Yep.
You can't just do odometry.
Y'all ever plan on doing any more soccer?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Good.
I think we need more competition. It's Scott, me, and Doug, and
we got.
You got us rookies that need the easy stuff first.
Right. That's the reason why we did 6 cans this time.
Yeah.
Is to get everybody eased back into it, and it still didn't work real well. I mean, we could probably have another 6 can first.
Well, if we do it next spring or something, I plan on getting involved or something the next time we do it.
Yeah. It really is a fun problem. Okay. And then, like I say, as soon as we get enough people who can do it well, then we go to soccer, and that's a whole new ball of wax. So anyway.
Okay, guys, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. I think next in queue we had David, and then we had nobody after David. We've had a whole bunch of discussion in the chat about emails, Doug. So there'll be some homework probably hiding in there. But so we have David, and then whoever else wants to jump in after that. David, what you got?
Okay, well, something fairly simple. Being a semi-full-time caregiver, I've only slightly dabbled occasionally, but I was playing around with the ESP 8266s, trying to get them to talk to each other and what have you. And I discovered that lo and behold, they didn't talk to each other very well at all. And I said, well, what's going on here? And finally I said, well, okay, let's just go with a access point, and you can set them up as an access point, and then you can separately talk to them using that access point essentially as your router. And I discovered that indeed all my problems were actually associated with my Spectrum router, that when I eliminated the router and used the access point from the device itself, then all my problems went away. Anyhow, that's just a quick short thing of essentially eliminate the router.
Yeah, cool. Good point.
Yeah, the ESPs have another communication method. It's proprietary. I think it uses part of the circuitry that It's actually used for Wi-Fi. It's called ESP Now, and I actually use that to communicate to this thing. It's got an ESP32 in it and an LCD screen, and so I don't have to stand over the robot and look at this little teeny display and try to figure out what it's reading. But that works really well. For I haven't counted the number of bytes it is, but it's a structure of data that pretty much fills the screen. The actual transmit time, or the time it takes to do it, is like 150 microseconds. So it's extremely fast. It's, much faster than, printf statements or whatever for debugging. So, and it's kind of nice because it's portable. It's battery operated. I just have a battery pack, not duct tape to it, but tape to it. So, and that works really pretty good. I've been really happy with that.
Ray, is that a Wi-Fi connectivity or?
I think it uses the radio components that are used in Wi-Fi, but it's not Wi-Fi. It's like a proprietary transmission method. So all you have to know is the MAC address of whatever you're sending it to, and there's a little program that you can use to find out what all these MAC addresses of all the different parts are. You can set it up in several different configurations. You can do one sender to one receiver. You can do one sender to multiple receivers. You can do multiple senders to one receiver. All you have to do is know the MAC address of what you're sending to, and I think both ends need to know about whatever structure you're sending, and the structure can have whatever components you want, and it can have text or all the variable types, floats, integers, doubles, whatever you want to send, character strings. Both ends have to know what that is. So, if you make a change in it, you've got to change it everywhere, because otherwise it won't be parsed correctly. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Random Nerd Tutorials has a lot of stuff on it. He seems to use it quite a bit.
I'm reading from the ESP website. It says ESP Now is yet another protocol developed by them, which enables multiple devices to communicate with one another without using Wi-Fi. The protocol is similar to the low power 2.4 gigahertz wireless connectivity that is often deployed in wireless mice. So the pairing between the device is needed prior to their communication. After the pairing is done, the connection is secure and a peer-to-peer with no handshake being required.
Right. So not unless they have separate radio components. I was assuming they were still, they were using parts of what they use for Wi-Fi, but it's not Wi-Fi.
Yeah, sounds.
But Dave, I guess, are you using the Wi-Fi or ESP Now?
I'm using just straight Wi-Fi. What I do is I set up the ESP8266 as an access point. Then I log into that, and I can go ahead and have it send a web page that I go. In this particular case, I turn on and off the LED by sending a web page to any sort of web reader,
browser client. Yeah.
And click on the on and click on the off, and that sends back to the ESP8266 the response, And based on that, it says, oh, you turned it on or you turned it off. But the problem I was having was when I was doing that using the Spectrum web server was that it was flaky. In other words, every 10 or 15 times it would lose it and not respond. And so I said, okay, well, how about making it essentially its own web server by making it an access point and then logging into that access point and then bringing up the page and communicating with it that way. Hopefully that makes sense to people.
Anyway, so I turned it on. That's all the stuff. It's like the first line is about the BNO 055, its calibration state. I have latitude and longitude, what level of fix I have, what the current heading of the BNO 055 is, what my target heading is, what the encoder counts are, the distance to go, and the state of the robot, and made it in big enough text that I could actually see it without glasses on, which is a real plus. So, but so it was very easy to do, very quick, and so my structure has all that information in it, and it gets. In this case, it's sent once a second, and you could send it faster if you want, but some of the readings change so quickly. It's like the numbers become all blurry if you send it too fast. So anyway, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, basically, I found on AliExpress an ultra cheap robot that uses the ESP 32, ESP 8266.
66, yeah.
And has a controller board that has a driver for the motors, etc. And the whole thing is about $15 and has this controller plus the motors plus the frame, the chassis and the wheels and the whole thing. And it's only about $14, $15 shipped. And so I said, well, let's try that as, in terms of like Doug did, was a maker make more robots of something somebody could cheaply make their own. And so I said, well, let's try that. And the problem I had with it, like I said, was in talking to it, it kept dropping stuff. And so I said, oh boy, what am I going to do now? This is worthless. And then I finally stumbled on saying, well,
oh no, he just froze.
He just froze. That must have been one of the 15 frames that he was missing out before.
David, your Spectrum Wi-Fi is giving you grief, I think.
I think it's the storms.
Oh yeah, you got a storm, right?
That was probably the secret to
Black
all my answers.
Black helicopters have just, gotten away the signal that you can't see because they're in stealth mode. I think that's probably what it is.
Cloaking devices, that'll get you every time.
Hey, while we're waiting for Dave, Scott, you mentioned that on your new robot, on your GPS, you'd gone to a different type of antenna. Do you, can you put a link to that antenna?
Yeah, I'll have to dig up where I got it from. I think it was a robot shop. I'll have to look, but yeah, I'll see what I can post.
Okay. Or maybe if you if you can't find a link, hold it up real close.
It was a spherical, what they call the spherical antenna. So instead of, your regular antenna, it's real stubby, but apparently the internals is machined spherically. And yeah, I've had excellent luck with it hooking up even indoors.
Yeah.
Let me see what I can find.
Yeah.
So what are you hooking that up to? Is it one of the FP9s or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell, that thing's so expensive. It should work with just a bare wire, you know?
Well, it comes with antennas, you know, and they're the big blocks. You know, they call it active antennas, I think.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the same thing with this other one.
Yeah, and just that antenna is like what, $75 or something?
Yeah, it was about $80, yeah.
Yeah, not cheap.
No.
Well, I'm having a lot of good luck with my inexpensive Amazon magnetic car for cars. That one's working really good, especially with the ground plate. So, you know, I just ordered me an aluminum 6-inch disc for finishing it up so that I can give my stainless steel pan back to my wife. So anyway, see how that's, but I'm curious because, you know, you would think that the better the antenna, the better the signal. I don't know. Hey, in fact, Kareem, you might be able to answer that question. Okay, you know how you wander around with GPS? You always do. If you have a better antenna, will you wander less? Or is that just inherent to the signal?
You do wander less. So if you have an L1, L2 signal or antenna, it's just going to get more fixed data from the satellites, and your receiver will have a better chance of choosing getting the best signal from them. But I don't have a whole lot of experience using just the non RTK GPS. I kind of gave up on that years and years ago.
Yeah. All these rich guys that we have in this group. Well, it should be interesting because if Kareem fielded something and if Scott fielded something, I know he says he's not, but we'll see. And Ray fielded something, we could have 3 RT GPSs out there at the same time. It'd be really interesting to see how that worked.
Yep, that'll be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right.
Oh, speaking of which, I got a real quick.
No.
I got a real quick question from last week. I showed some of the Mechavator going, but I didn't see that in the. Did the recording from last week get cut short? I may have missed that conversation. It was like only 15 minutes. It looked like it was posted on
Really?
on YouTube. Yeah.
Really?
I can't look at the recording machine right now. I can look at.
No, well, let me go look and see.
Because that was it should have been a 1-part recording.
Yeah, I think it was. Let's see what we got here.
Oh, it's a really small file size.
Okay, well let me see what was downloaded.
Oh no, it was an unintentional edit.
How long did you guys have access to the metadata in order to automate it?
I rented it for 2 months.
Oh, okay.
And they got the basics of it working. They weren't able to meet that often during the summer, so but we were still sort of mostly meeting weekly, and they got most of it. They got the prototype up in about 3 meets, and then spent a fair amount of time improving the mechanical portion of it. Is what we were having trouble with. The coding wasn't all that difficult. but the actual the GPS integration was something that I did. That's not something that the team was able to do.
Thanks. I figured there was some amount, considering what it could do, there was a sizable amount of work in that, and it was pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
that was stuff that I'd mostly done on previous robots. I'd previously shown that beachcomber robot, which is the little thing that draws in the sand, and that's where I worked out all of the high precision GPS stuff. And it was, since I used the basic platform that they use as a team, it was very easy to sort of port that code over into the latest version of their code base.
That was awesome.
The infinite energy of youth, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm having trouble keeping up with them.
Keeping them busy, or they're keeping you busy. I can't tell which.
Yeah, it's both. It's a little bit of both. They threw me under the bus when they showed the Mechavator at a FTC workshop a couple weeks ago, and they blamed it on me, that it was my idea to turn that thing into a robot. And I guess I'm partly guilty. I guess I am. But they glommed onto that idea in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
They just they probably just couldn't imagine that I would be so reckless as to actually let them do it.
I was going to say, just don't show the rental company.
I was going to say it's obviously your fault because you didn't stop him.
That's right.
Yeah. Lifetime memories. So
man,
I have to apologize. I don't know what it was, Kareem, but there's the root recording I just checked is only 15 minutes, so somebody must have hit the pause button at the wrong time.
Okay. All right,
Yeah,
that explains it. I was wondering.
Yeah, that's kind of bad. That was a great one.
That was good, awesome. You're gonna have to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I guess we'll do that at the where they.
Didn't you say y'all was going to edit that and make it polish the video anyway?
Oh yeah, they still got work to do. I'm afraid they're going to miss the deadline on it, unfortunately, because they're back in school, and that's really taking their focus right now. Stupid school.
Yeah.
School and work. We could just dump it.
What are these people thinking?
Priorities, man. That's some seriously priorities, sir.
Head straight into retirement. High school retirement. That's what I want to do. Wait a minute. Lost that boat.
So, Carl, do you think you got a part 2?
No, I just checked. There is no part 2. It would appear that I bumped the mouse at the wrong time and hit stop recording.
Oh, man, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's really a shame. Okay. Well, yeah, I didn't even check. I should have known it. Probably downloaded real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thought you got a boost in download speed there. Huh?
Yeah, I was like, whoa. Okay.
Wow. I knew it was a shorter meeting than normal, so I saw the smaller file size, but I didn't think to check the duration. But the hard thing is that if you're participating in the meeting, and if you're trying to watch the recording equipment, it's cognitive overload. So if you've seen, I've been making mistakes lately. So
it's all good.
Yeah.
Carl, does that mean you're slip sliding away?
Sorry, did you say something, Doug? Where's my tin here? I don't know what's going on. Yeah,
oh, man.
Parts are falling off.
I'll tell you what.
Parts. Hey, I'm noticing that Charles has something on his desk, and I'm hoping that there's a show and tell. Is that what we're detecting here, Charles?
Yeah. So I quite recently finished this end effector that I've been working forever on. Just thought I'd show it off a little bit. So my wife told me the time and money I spend on this thing, it better do something useful around the house. So then I had a college professor, I had kind of like an early rev of like a parallel gripper. And he's like, well, how much force can this thing put out? And he was surprised, but I was like, I can do even better. So I came up with this redesign that's based on a twin lead screw and a couple sets of rails. And this is actually, and when I priced out twin lead screws, man, that price is so expensive. But if you go out and look at the Panavice 350, Panavice makes a vise that you crank it from the end, and the jaws come together and meet in the center
to the middle. Yeah.
So I kind of cannibalized Panavice 350 and took the twin lead screw out and the carriage blocks, and then I put my own stainless steel rods in there and then made a gear train with some gears from MSC. But it's got, I want to put a gauge on it to see how much force this thing is putting out.
Yeah, you could probably take off a finger with that thing,
But yeah, you can see it just sitting there crushing the can.
Yep.
I
Yes,
want to see. Forget
twin
the
lead
can. I want to
screws.
see you do like a shock absorber from a car. I mean, that thing looks substantial enough.
Oh yeah, probably would.
Yeah.
So twin lead screw, it's just left-hand threads on one side, right-hand threads on the other, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. My wife keeps wanting me to build a robot that does something useful as well.
Say that again.
I said my wife is still waiting for me to build a robot that does something useful as well.
But Scott, is she like my wife, where she's just settling to have you out of her hair when you're in the workshop for a while?
No, probably a little bit of both.
Okay, because that seems to have some value around here.
So as long as we're talking about wives, I have to pat mine on the back. She has been trying to help me come up with ideas to make my R2D2 robot. She's actively interested in making this work out for me.
So here,
Looking stuff up.
I don't have any grip pads on it right now, so there's nothing to grip it. But here you can see that's got the the ability to grip a plate. That's kind of my goal is to be able to carry the payload of the heaviest thing in the kitchen and load the dishwasher or something someday.
Don't do that with your best china,
without breaking it even.
Yeah. How will you manage to keep from breaking the plate?
Well, so if you've ever seen those force sensitive resistors that are pretty widely available at like EPO down in Houston or Robot Shop or something, they're 2.5 or they're 2-inch square pads, and so I've designed the gripper kind of around that force sensitive resistor, so I can easily put that FSR pad in there and be able to measure that the applied pressure. And then I've got some 3M adhesive like gripping material that I can lay over that FSR. But that'll be my feedback.
Probably doesn't take a whole lot to break a plate though, so
Yeah.
True.
That's neat.
So that's the gripper. What's the gripper gonna? Is there an arm that's coming next?
Well, yeah. So I'm working on the shoulder joint right now. That's good. I got a piece of 4x4 tube here, and then I've done like parallel ring bearings from VXB bearing. They sell these Lazy Susan type of bearings pretty cheap, but you can parallel them and get a lot of stability out of it. And then here I've done like a worm drive. This is the spur gear of a worm drive. So I've kind of built my own slewing ring assembly here, and this is going to be the drive for the shoulder joint. And so this will sit there on the end of the Lazy Susan bearing stack up, and this will be my shoulder joint.
Boy, I wish.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I sure wish Will hadn't dropped off, because he's our mechanical guru. He would really
incredibly stout there.
And plus, he would love to talk to you about that. Yeah. He was on earlier, but he dropped off.
I'm trying to make all the joints use these AM equipment motors. These are pretty. These got pretty amazing torque to them, and they actually have one now that's they call it an industrial servo motor, but it's the same size, form factor, and power as these straight up DC ones, but it's a true servo, so you could just send it a pulse train and it would respond accordingly.
Wow.
It's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, I've got high hopes for it, so need a lot of power.
Okay, so you've got an end effector and you've got a shoulder joint. So how many other joints are lurking in the background?
Yeah, so it's kind of a strange approach. I've got, I've built the hand, I've built, working on the shoulder. So yeah, I'm trying to incorporate everything in between. Like this is the upper arm linkage here. So that, I'll end up probably cutting this away to make room for one of the AM motors, and then kind of 90 degrees out of phase from that, I'll have another cutout for the other AM motor, such that the shoulder can kind of bend out that way, but then you've put the joint in for the elbow as well.
Wow.
What's going to be the finished product? What's it for? What are you going to do with it?
I mean, I think the easiest first task would for it to roll out to the front yard and water the lawn, because I can easily get a hose sprayer in that end effector and hold it quite well. So that would be kind of low hanging fruit for its first task, is to go water the lawn. and I've got like kind of an indoor one and an outdoor one that I'm planning, and they're both. I start on both of them. I start out with an electric wheelchair base. So you find these surplus wheelchairs, and it's got all the stuff you need already in a chassis.
Oh yeah, they make good platforms.
Nice.
Yep.
Cool.
Figure they can hold up to a 300-pound person and move them along. So
yeah. This the 5 foot. This one will be about 5 foot. I've got I found like a square lift for like these ergonomic workstations where you can vary the height of your keyboard and desk and so forth. Well, it's just a square column, so I'm using that as like the torso. So he can the robot will be able to make the upper body adjustable. So he can grow up to the height of that top shelf to put that top plate on the shelf or whatnot.
Sounds good.
And then it's got an RGB LED matrix for the face that the kids like to interact with.
Well, that's looking cool.
That's kind of in the same ballpark as my claw machine I've been talking. My new robot arm.
Ah.
Can I show off a little bit of that when you're done?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm done. That's about all I had.
All right. Well, in the same. See, the rest of this is on the 3D printer right now. So, anyway, this is the pedestal that's going to be on the base. And see, I've got it on Lazy Susan too, just like Charles there. This right here, this blue part, this is all prototype. This ain't gonna be my finished product. But you see a servo's mounted inside the base. It's gonna swivel. And then this arm, there's gonna be an arm attached to this, and then another arm out there. And that servo is gonna control this. This is just the other side. This is an idler side here. See how it's in there?
Yeah.
There's the hub is mounted behind this, is stuck in there behind this servo. This will be on the idler side, and then of course right now 3D printing. I'm 3D printing this arm that's going to mount to this servo, and then so that's where I'm at. It's going to be in the base. I'm going to have probably a gear a whole lot like Charles is doing. This is going to swivel back and forward, and then pick up the items in the claw machine and drop them off. I didn't want to show this tonight because I wanted to show it after I got some servos going. So hopefully next time I'll see you guys, I'll have the arms on there and I'll have the servos wired up. And so since Charles had his little deal, it's some kind of in the same ballpark as mine. So there you go.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Like it.
So, Charles, are you a machinist?
No, actually, my background is control, so but
Okay.
I've kind of been indoctrinated into that area by wanting to make the robot strong and robust.
Strong. Yeah.
See, I am a machinist. So, but it sure is a lot nicer just 3D printing stuff. It's a lot easier.
It is, but then you don't get the strength, but I've had to buy a little lathe and
that's pretty cool though.
Next a mill to finish all this out.
So what
mill?
Yeah. What lathe did you end up with, Charles?
Oh, just that cheap one from Harbor Freight.
Oh, okay. So I think they call it a mini mill.
Yeah.
I mean mini lathe.
Yeah, I had like a little kind of one for like a jeweler's grade or model railroader grade. I would max that capacity out every time I put something on it, so I just had to get something bigger.
Yeah.
But I found a little machine shop that helped me. They took my design and they CNC'd the end plates for me.
Oh, okay.
And that's kind of nice, is that it has a symmetric design such that the end plates are the same, but one happens to have the gear train mounted on it, but you could easily swap them out. And then I have valid spares for each end plate, and the connecting pieces are just bar stock.
Yeah. So are you local to the Dallas area, Charles?
I'm in Fort Worth, so
okay. Well, why I mention
hard for me
is
to get over there sometimes.
Oh well, yeah. Because are you on the west side or the east side?
East side, but
well, it might be within your range.
Yeah.
Because Dallas Makerspace is on the west side of Dallas.
Yeah, I was there. I was there Saturday.
Yeah. You were there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm just what I was trying to say is, did anybody take you through? They've got a pretty nice machine shop.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, they have Bridgeports. They have, big lathes. They have small ones too.
Do they still have
CNCs? It's a lot of square feet. I mean,
if you're willing to go get trained and everything, because you have to go to training. They don't just set you loose on the machines.
Yeah.
But if you get trained on them, like you say, there's a big Haas CNC in there. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Because my next challenge will be, I want to round this off and cut these corners, but still have it symmetric.
Yeah.
I live over here in Fort Worth. I live in Kennedale area. You know where that's at?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I live. So that's pretty much Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And Fort Worth, I heard is, I not only heard it, I've seen it on Facebook. They're starting up another trying to get up another makerspace themselves over here.
Yeah, but they've been trying to do that for years.
I know.
Yeah.
North Richland Hills has a small one, but they don't.
This
have...
is new. This is over in White Settlement.
Oh, okay.
It's on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know those guys, Randall and Mark. They come to the 3D printer, DFW 3D printer thing on first Tuesday of every month, and they're kind of nice guys. In fact, I think I know Randall through other means as well, through some of my magic friends, entertainment industry, because he does some stuff. So they're good guys. How far they're going to go, I don't really know.
Well, this sounds like a different group than that's been playing with that. There used to be a group in Fort Worth that was associated with the library, and they never could get off ground, I think, because of politics. But it'd be nice to see another makerspace in that area.
I've been thinking about actually visiting over there and see about. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
Maybe see what they would think about getting a little robot deal going, and we could join up competitions or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the Lab MS? Is that still going?
That's supported partially by the city of Richardson, I believe.
Is it?
They're not supported per se, but I think they got a good deal on their rent, and they're, as far as I know, they've gotten bigger. Who did I run into?
I haven't talked to those guys in a while.
Yeah, I haven't either, but there was somebody I ran into recently who was a member of it, and he was saying they're doing well.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was set up as a nonprofit, though, right?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't have. I mean, they don't have anything like the Dallas Makerspace.
Right.
I mean, the Dallas Makerspace has got.
That was really incredible. I got a tour of the Dallas Makerspace on Saturday, and boy, that's doubled in size since I was there.
But I mean, they've got the good stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They made a good decision. They said, if we buy just normal crap, a lot of our members have normal crap because we all tinkerers, you know what I mean? So you got something, like you've got a mini mill, Charles. I mean, a mini lathe, So you wouldn't be interested if they had a mini lathe.
True.
So they got a lathe, you know what I mean? And if you want, and in the woodworking gear, I mean, they have a woodworking shop that.
Pretty nice.
Nice.
A lot of cabinet grade stuff.
Yes, really nice.
Not just one or two pieces, but a full.
Yeah.
A lot of nice.
Yeah, and and they have if you want welding, they have everything. They have plasma cutter, they have the special grinders, they have everything. And I mean, and then if you have one of the more, like jewelry or ceramics they just got but when they buy stuff, they don't buy the stuff that you would buy. They buy the good stuff. And I'm not saying that you wouldn't buy good stuff, but I mean, you wouldn't be able to afford all of this stuff.
$55,000 CNC for wood, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they can do a 5-foot by 10-foot block of sheet of wood.
I used to program a Haas mill when I was working years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a serious mill. That's an industrial mill.
Oh yeah, that's where they got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A giant laser cutter, must be a 6-foot by 3-foot bed. Huge.
The
Huge.
Thunders, and they got a couple of them now, I think, right?
There were like 3 of
Two
them.
of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Maybe 4, but 2 of them were like sort of regular size, sort of like 3 feet by 2 feet kind of bed. But there was this like one that had to be 6 feet by 4 feet.
Yeah.
Huge.
do the big stuff, or you can do the small. A couple of them they have will do raster, like black and white dot image rastering instead of just vector cutting, and really fast too. Like you can give it a photo and it'll do a grayscale photo with laser etched in, whatever.
Yeah. So that was a wise strategy on their part, and I'm not saying there's never been any drama at the DMS. There has been, but they have been very blessed with people who have done a good job as officers and committee members for a number of years. You know, and that's the thing that people have problems with, is they usually implode. You know, and so far they have managed not to even come near that.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story about what's his name, Mark Mavens or whatever, but
Yeah.
you know, I got little glimpses of it, and I don't know who's right or who's wrong, and I'm not even passing judgment. What I am going to judge on is I don't want none of that. I want to come in, I want to build my stuff, I want to leave, I want to, you know, I don't need any of that. I don't.
Yeah.
Drum.
Yeah, but there's so much money involved. You know, it's hard to get around it.
I know.
Yeah. Well, we're drifting off.
I do have a question though.
What's up?
Unlike some of you very much more talented people than me with machinery and stuff, and I know I have a 3D printer, so that option is there but not really there. I want to build some mechanical type stuff. Like for instance, I've got an idea from seeing a bunch of other people, and I've concocted a thing where I want to build some stuff that may or may not solve Rubik's cubes, may do other things, but I don't know how the mechanics of it are actually going to work. I could spend about a bazillion hours trying to model this thing in Fusion, which I'm, you know, I can't say that I'm accomplished, but I can do a couple of things, you know. And what I really thought, and what I think that I want, would be something like, and I know they don't sell them anymore exactly, but there's got to be some version of it. You know, when I was growing up, we had these erector sets. We had little gears, and we had little things where we could bolt them together pretty easy, and those kind of things. And I need some stuff that's got some gearings and some pushing things and some stuff I can rotate around. You know, just a collection of mismatch of stuff, and start putting stuff together to get something I like, and then I can eventually, you know, model it up and get exactly what I want. But is any of that making any sense?
Yeah. I'll tell you this, Harold. I built a Rubik's Cube solver.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of fun.
3D printed, right?
It was all 3D printed, and the guy who had put it up it was very nicely designed.
I got you.
And but if you were doing a Rubik's Cube builder now, there's so many designs. If you look up Rubik's Cube solver on Hackaday or Instructables, there's a gazillion of them.
I found like tons of them, and some of them are more elaborate, some are less elaborate. But I looked at them and I'm like, okay, those are all cool, but I want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and some of that. And I want to combine all of those into one thing. And I need stuff that I can throw together.
I mean, it sounds like, are you focused more in like just a kit of parts where a Rubik's Cube machine is just one example of things you'd like to mock up? Or?
Exactly. It's more of a kit of parts of things that has all these, you know, I need some stuff with some gears in it. I need some stuff with some those things. I need some stuff with some linear things. I need some stuff that, you know, I can rotate on. I need some stuff with some pulleys, you know, various bits and pieces.
Probably the best person to answer that is Kareem.
Okay, I couldn't understand any of that.
Okay. I said probably the best person to recommend, you know, companies would be Kareem. I know he uses a lot of Rev Robotics, and they have their system, and I think GoBuilta has something
Yeah, they got
similar.
a bunch of stuff, right? The Go Builder folks are the Actobotics. They're same people. One's millimeters, one's inch, one's imperial, right? So, yeah, they got. Maybe I just need just got buy one of their series of things and see what we get and look around with it. You know,
Would Open Builds have something like that?
yeah, Open Builds is the same sort of things. I've seen those.
And McMaster Car has all kinds of stuff, man. I mean, McMaster Car just ton gears and actuators and
I would use them when you're outside of the kit of parts, right? That's when you need to get very, very specific things that aren't available in the kit of parts. It's going to be more expensive.
Yeah, you know, but you understand what I'm talking about. I was growing up, I had an erector set. Yes, they sliced my fingers and did other things, and they, you know, probably gave me some form of tetanus. But it was just a mash of stuff I could bolt together and try some things out.
Yep.
So, well, okay, here's another option. You might go look at the different VEX lines, okay, because they sell a complete kit of parts. And if you just want like a variety of gears and a variety of things to put gears onto and stuff like that, that might be the easiest flexible thing to mess with. Okay, somewhere in my past, I picked up one of their plastic ones. I think it was called the Vex IQ, and that was pretty. If you look at the parts that are in there, if you just want to play with gear ratios and learn stuff like that, it'd be a good kit. I mean, good value for the money. But like you said, there's many different ones. I know that, like I say, Rev has probably got. Dream, do they sell kits? Just
they sell starter sets, yeah. And then they have like sub kits for, like, if you wanted a pulley set or a sprocket set or those kinds of things. So they'll give you a large variety of their parts, and it all works well together. Very flexible. I would say the GoBuilda stuff is going to be a little bit sturdier in most of their things, but they each have different strengths and weaknesses. We use them interchangeably. Like, we'll use GoBuilda and Rev in one robot. There are ways to make them work together. The main difference, the only like it's not even an incompatibility, but the GoBuilda stuff standardizes on 4mm hex bolts, and the Rev standardizes on 3mm. And so you gotta be a little bit careful about that. But they both sets have components that are designed to make them interchangeable with each other, like adapters and things like that. There's great value in both of those. On the Vex side, I would the plastic stuff is a lot cheaper than the Lego stuff.
Yeah.
And still pretty sturdy, but it's gonna max out at a scale of like a 12-inch robot or something like that. If you want to go larger, then you got to get into the metal frames. The Vex is there's plenty of great robots that are built on the Vex platform. They tend to be more closed in their approach, although they're also like trying to sell parts into the FTC realm. So for example, if Rev doesn't have a certain belt size, I'll go look at Vex, and they'll probably have it for a very similar kind of price range. I just don't like the steel structural elements on the Vex side. They're sort of just a very simple rectangular grid pattern, and much heavier than the aluminum that the other guys tend to focus on.
Yeah. And Kareem, doesn't Rev have a lot of 20mm extruded aluminum parts too?
Yeah, they actually focus on a 15 millimeter for their
15.
FTC
I'm
line.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they also have an Imperial line for their larger FRC robots, and basically on the the inch form factor.
Mhm.
And I think that those are probably not as great. The most recent stuff. So they've recently redesigned a lot of stuff, and they've got
Mhm.
something called a Duo, which is on the FTC side, and then I'm drawing a blank. So they've got new structural elements. The newer stuff on both lines is much better, I would say.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of evolution on the Rev side that I've seen over
Mhm.
the years. The Go Builda stuff, sort of, it came out a little after Rev, and it learned from the prior, from Rev and from Tetrix before that. So those older building systems, the Go Builda folks sort of learned really well from the market, and I'm impressed with a lot of their designs as well.
Is that GO-BUIL or
No, GOBILDA.
Okay.
And they are, yeah, there you go. Carl put a link in.
And they have kits. So chassis kits, linear motion kits, pan kits.
Yeah, almost everybody has a starter Mecanum kit because a lot of the competition robots are sort of going in that way. So yeah, and there's Andy Mark. These are for much larger robots. Those again, they tend to serve the FRC crowd more, and a little bit larger than most of us are building in, or quite a bit larger, I would say. But if you need higher power motors, that's another place to look. So yeah, Rev serves both of those markets, and they're all going after the educational market, independent of the robot competitions.
I'm looking at that Builda right now, at our Go
Builda.
Go Build It. Pretty cool site.
It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Just too bad there's not a Go Builda store right next door. Just every Friday you could go in and just walk out with an armload, whatever you want.
Yeah,
well, that was convenient. We did, we have Rev here locally in Carrollton, and I used to drive by there, get same day pickup all the time. Yeah. They turned that off. They sort of started discouraging that during the pandemic, and I haven't really checked to see if they're starting to open that up again or not.
Wow.
But they let us purchase from them, and not the shipping, the route fees. You still have to pay shipping when you order online, but if you're picking up locally, you can put it in the order notes, and they're always good about removing that if they're allowing you to pick up locally now. Huh. And because we're a nonprofit, they we can drop the sales tax too.
Does that help you? It sounds like you already had the answer there, Harold.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. I mean, I do appreciate everybody's input. I truly do. It's when I was really looking forward, it's like, go give me a box or something that costs about $100. It's got a little bit of whatever, and I was looking at the Go Builda stuff, and it's probably going to cost a little more than that. But they do have boxes of various bits of things that have lots of things in those boxes and some of the stuff in there. So there's some possibilities there.
Where's that at? What
place is it?
GOBILDA.com.
Put a link in the chat there.
Yeah. I was just looking at that site. Go Builda. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
I like it.
Maybe I can mix and match some of those things and get enough stuff to try some stuff out before I, let me tell you what I'm building towards, because I do want to make a robot that does solve a cube, right? But most of them I see have a one thing flipper, and And if they're very fast at all, I'm not trying to break world records here. I just want to be a little impressive to watch, and not take 5 minutes to solve a cube. So, because at that point I'm solving a cube faster than that, and I'm slow. You know, and I got the basic moves. I can do it in about a minute and a half. So something needs to beat me. And what I would like to have it to do is that I would be somewhere, and this is what I vision. I have no idea if it's ever going to happen. My vision is that we're at a conference somewhere, or we're at a show, and I've got this thing sitting on the table. I've got any number of cubes sitting on the table that people like or don't like, or people pick up, mess up, and then they put it on the thing. The thing realizes that there's something on it, lowers it into the right position, grabs it, and interrogates it, says, "Oh, I got this. I'm ready." You hit the button to go, and I'll solve it. And then, some 10, 15 seconds later, you have something solved. And it lowers it down. It comes in and grabs it. It's an unmodified cube. Most of the really, really fast cubes out there, that are doing speed cubing on that kind of thing, their cubes are heavily modified. Like they have inserts for the stepper motors, and they're not really actually being able to hold the thing and that kind of stuff. So there's an AI component to it. And they'll get up and they'll tell what sides are on what things before they put the cube down in. So that's just one section of a whole Rube Goldberg looking thing that I have built up in my brain that will probably never happen, but an idea to get attention at like conferences and stuff when we're trying to do things. Because I think, at least for the improving world, the people that think that's cool and sit there and watch it are probably the people we want to hire. So, it's that sort of thing. And it's not that I'm trying to do everything for improvement, because I think it'd be cool to just build. But then if I can do it where it's also cool enough to be able to show off and maybe showcase someplace, and it's just not the standard thump it over, rotate, thump it over, rotate, thump it over, rotate, which that's a lot of those things out there. And the other ones I've seen that do it are so incredibly bulky. I mean, this is going to have some bulk to it. There's no two ways about it. But I figure that if I have a pair of grippers that do this number and a thing that holds out, as I run my stepper motor into it, as soon as this thing pushes, I can figure out how hard to push to grab the side, grab all four sides of it like that, lower down the platform that it's sitting on, and then go to town. I got some ideas, out of all these different things I've been watching, and some of it I'm not. Some of it's analysis paralysis on the thing, and some of it is like, how do I work out how big things need to be and how much pressure I need to go on, and all those sorts of things. And I need something physical to. Well, I guess I could model it up in Fusion, but the time it's going to take and the effort to learn that modeling skill in Fusion, I don't know that I want to invest that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think you need Charles end effector and shoulder joint.
Yeah.
Harold brought up a good point, is that trying to nail down the end speed is kind of a tricky thing for me anyway, because I had that lead screw, but there's equations out there of what the ratio is.
I even got people that work that will help me do it fast, because they are cube fanatics. Because you do know the God move number, meaning solving any cube ever, is 20 moves, right? Doing 20 moves, that's the God number to be able to figure out the patterns and everything, to do 20 moves to solve any cube. And so they're like, if you get that together, I would be an interesting software project for me so I've got some people that want to help do this. And I just have I got to get mechanically so it's easy for everybody to use and cool to watch. That's, and Charles, I do appreciate that end effector, because if it doesn't do it in 5 seconds, we could just crush the cube with your end effector.
Yeah.
I think a good analogy is with omelets. You know, you have to break a few eggs to make
Oh,
omelets.
sure.
With your thing, you may have to break a few cubes to get it to work that fast.
And I think you folks know enough of me that I am good with that. You know, I am good with breaking a bunch of stuff. It's just, and I don't mind having lots of iterations and stuff, but it's a tinkering thing. Well, that didn't work. How about with this? And to be able to, in a few minutes, with a bunch of pre-made parts, slap a new thing together and try it.
Absolutely.
But
Sure. I said absolutely.
You know, versus I could print all of those parts, but then several hours later, the spark of inspiration has probably turned into some dull ache in my big toe, and I'm losing that idea, right? And so that's kind of where I was going to. If I get a spark of inspiration, I'm like, ooh, this is better, and try. Oh no, it doesn't work. Okay, let me try it this one. It doesn't work. And then at some point, I get tired and I have to go sleep. But you know, at least there's some stuff there where I can iterate over the design really, really quick. And as fast as 3D printing is, it's not that. And when I say fast, you know, people are like, well, 3D printing is so slow. I said, yeah, but if you wanted that part that I just handed you that took 12 hours to build, if you wanted that doesn't exist, it's unique to you, it's going to take 2 to 3 months of engineering and manufacturing. You got to get 10,000 of them if you only want one of them. You know, so which one is slower? You know, I usually use that analogy, right?
If you had to do that on a milling machine or a lathe, some of that stuff, you know, injection molds, I've done some of that in the past. Those things take months to build.
Yeah,
months.
I know. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm not even beyond that. After we figured this out and we got some standard, I mean, a couple of the ideas that I've seen, they were built with Legos, and they survived some high-speed stuff. And I'm like, you know, but I don't like how they did a few things. I could do it better, and I don't want to spend $1 bazillion on Legos. And besides, Legos look cheap. I want this to look like an engineered thing. You know, not that they are cheap. I know they're not cheap. All those other kinds of things. But I want this to look like an engineered, on purpose, designed, built thing, as opposed to something somebody slapped together over the course of a little bit.
Did you see Carl's link in the chat there? That looks like that's a pretty professional machine there.
Let me go look.
Yeah, half a second solving time.
Not bad.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. You see, and you can. That's a prime example. That's a prime example. If you look at that robot, you see, I've looked for those center cubes. See those center cubes? They're a specially injected cube where they take an insert and the center block. If you look at those things, and that's cool. And if I could find a bunch of those center blocks, I'd do that too. But I can't find those things. I think they're either made directly for them or they're not made anymore. Because at some point somebody was selling them, and I can't find who's selling the things. I've seen that link before too. That some of those pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Solving in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly centered. Because some of the related videos to that one show when they were getting it tuned and centered and balanced, and you know, they'd hit the switch and it would just fly apart because it wasn't centered quite right.
Those things are sanded down and smooth and oiled up and greased 9 ways to Sunday and all of that stuff. So, but that's cool because but I'm not trying to. I'm looking at 10 to 15 seconds, something long enough to go, ooh, that's cool, but I couldn't do it myself. You know,
Doug, what was the time for the one that you used to bring around? It was like a couple minutes, right?
What, are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably a couple minutes, and it wouldn't be good for what I'm thinking that he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I built it because I was occasionally going to some elementary schools and doing a robot demonstration. So I would always end it with a kid competing against the Rubik cube solver.
Oh, cool.
So, and it would, I would say, depending on how messed up it is, it'd take a minute or two for sure. And like Ray said, it could probably take longer. And so the kid had a chance, but she didn't have, they didn't have much of a chance. And it, it's one of the things you have to tune up. It wasn't very expensive. I think it had about a half a dozen or so servos. And I'm trying to see if I can find a link. They may have taken it down. Okay, let me see.
Also, Doug, while you're looking there, thank you very much for thinking of me on Saturday. I couldn't be there because we were doing some family stuff and birthdays and that kind of stuff, but thank you very much for thinking of me.
Okay, well, I wish you could have got it, but it went to a good home.
Fantastic.
Doug's going to possibly use it with his next version of the telepresence, maybe. He's got, at least he can think about it. So
Hold up. Was that Harold that gave me that iCreate?
No, it was me.
No, it was Doug. But Doug texted me during the day and asked if I wanted it because he would hold it back and I would take it. But I because of everything else I've got going on, I knew I couldn't do anything with it, so I opted out of that. And that's why. But I'm thanking him for the thought and that kind of stuff. And I do appreciate that, truly.
Yeah, the one I have, the designer took the design down, so I don't know if I don't know if he was trying. It was a great design. Okay. Let me see if I can find a picture.
Well, too, with an iCreate base, you could clean up after meetings and stuff. So.
iCreates deliberately don't have any of the cleaning parts just to prevent that.
Yeah, that's true. They don't, do they?
Do they not? They don't even have places where you could mount the cleaning parts on that. It's a different model altogether, I hear.
So, Harold, I'm going to do a little presentation here.
Okay.
You can see it if I can get to it.
Because I had a friend of mine and we were solutioning.
Okay, have you seen one like this?
I have seen one like that, yes, sir.
Okay, that's the one I built. Mine didn't have all those different colors. And this is really cool because it manipulates it like a set of hands, okay? So it all happens there in the middle. It never moves. These grippers here are slightly less than 1 block width. So like if he wants to rotate, right now it's in a neutral position, but he could rotate, say, the top row by moving this one up and down so that these are on the top row, and then it twists it.
Yeah.
And it they use these really nice servos.
Yeah.
And I had good luck with 296. What do they call them? They're metal. Okay, so they're Metal Gear, so they'd be MG 996s. And he later changed out this particular cheap camera. Mm-hmm. But it worked. It's surprisingly, you can see how the parts went together.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't know if this design's even up there anymore. So I guess
I found it. I found it. I think it's still up on Thingiverse, I think.
Oh, really?
Are those 3D printed?
Yep.
Everything in this is pretty much 3D printed except for the servos and the yeah. Give me a second, I'll bring it down. But it was a very nice design. Okay. But it isn't the fastest thing in the world. And I think to buy his version of software is like 15 or 20 bucks.
Yeah.
So let me see how much.
So, I mean, I've been kicking this idea around for a very long time. It's just now here recently it's bubbled up to the surface. And so I'm like, okay, let's take a few more steps to it before I get bored with it and shove it away. And then I'll bring it back up again after a little while, and eventually something may come out of this. I'm looking at, I just look at what is the next step I need. And the next step I need is to be able to figure out some kind of gripper. And I, hold on. Let me see if I can find one that has inspired me. Let me go speed looking that fast.
That's what it looked like. And here's the cube, so you can kind of get a feel for the size.
Nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
Harold.
Very nice. Harold.
Yes, sir. I got you. I'm sorry my back's to you guys. This is actually the computer I'm watching everybody on.
So anyway, that was a fun project, and I recommend if before you start designing your own that you build one from somebody else's plan.
Certainly.
That way you kind of see which ways it's going to go.
Turn that off. Let me see if this is the one I think it is. No, it's not. That's not the one. You use mirrors to do some stuff. I think. Maybe. Yeah, the mirror cuber. Here you go. I got an incoming link, and I'll be happy to share this as well. Stop it. I said stops it. Incoming link. Called the mirror cuber, and I don't know if I've got a way to easily show you that on my camera and my screen here. In fact, I know I don't. With OBS, I got to preset up that scene. Maybe I got it. Hold on. Add a scene. Add a source. No. Get rid of you. Yes.
That's pretty cool. I'm watching that right now.
What now? Are you watching it?
Yeah, I'm watching it, but you posted it, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, so now if I switch to this, I've got it up there. And if I switch here, everybody should be able to see it. If you want to pin it. So this is called the mirror cuber. And if you look, it's got mirrors. He's got things that are kind of holding on to it. And this is indeed a, I've got my sound turned off on it. That's indeed a Legos based turner. And as cool as all that is, I think we could do one better with if I could do the clampy thing that have a thing where it sits on there, does the analysis, then have the clamps come in, clamp very much like Doug's done on his, and then spin them around and away we go. I don't know if I'll get it to 1.2 seconds or whatever, but that's sort of the idea.
Just looking at that cube, though, that doesn't look like a standard cube.
That is probably a speed cube, and you can buy those things for cheaper than actually real cubes.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, there's how that works. That was some inspiration of that with a combination of some of the things that I'd seen with the model that Doug has just shown, and I'm like, how can I combine those two? And there's another one that is even way automated where it's got platforms that lower down into the thing, and, you know, make it a real, let's just say, if a Rube Goldberg, you know, not really Rube Goldberg it, but have it a more of a thing that sits there and it goes, oh, I see you have a cube. Here, I've got it checked out. You want me to solve it? Yes. And away you go, and that sort of thing. Of course, I've got some more elaborate stuff in my head than that, but that's kind of like iteration 27,000. It looks like.
Well, that one you put a link in looks really cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
And it's probably something that, you know, you could look at the design and just unlego it.
Yep.
And,
the only real problem with that one, the only one real problem with that one, is that if you look at the thing, where did it go? If you look at how those, can I get a side thing? That is not an unmodified cube. That is not an unmodified cube. If you look on the side here, you see where the cube interfaces into it?
Those are probably just stops. They just stop in there. But, you know, there's probably just like a suction cup on the end of that or something.
You may be right. You may be right.
Yeah, because you see, that's the one I'm saying. The first thing you realize on these things is that the center row column never gets turned.
Yep.
It's all done on the edges. So by pegging the center square on each of those four sides, you know, this is why he's able to do it so much faster than one I'm doing, because he's got it and the cube never moved. Did you see that?
Yeah, the cube never moves, just the size.
Right, because he's pinning it at the places that never change. And I'm not sure how he's turning the edges. That would be kind of interesting to see. But that's actually a very good design. And it looks like he's using just 4 DC motors and gearing.
I think he's got 8. I think he's got 2 on each one of them in gears. See if you'll notice on the right-hand side there, where those two, where you can see a motor, a gear that's turning it, and another motor below it.
Yeah. Well, that might be the bottom row and the top. Excuse me. The top part, the top 9 squares, and the bottom 9 squares. Okay. So you have to be able to, if you think about it, you have to be able to go like this on the 2 edges, and you need to be able to go like this on the top 2. That's all you have to be able to do. Okay?
Yeah.
So, but even so, I mean,
yeah, I'll switch back to stuff.
Yeah, if you bought those 10 motors that were $5 a pop.
Oh,
there you go.
You mean those 10 motors that were $5 a pop? They're in this green box right here.
Yeah, the ones that have the encoders on the back and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Might be a good start there.
You know, it might be a good start, right?
Yeah. So like I say, you might, if he has the design, just figure out how to de-Legoize it.
Yeah, maybe that's a good start. I get that, and I get some. I am really. By the way, I'm really happy with my Ender 2, my Ender 3 V2 that I got as an open box from Micro Center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy with that thing, and it might be that part of these parts, if I just go down and find another open box in the $100 range, I might get enough parts out of one of those printers.
I'd look at the design. It looked like he had a lot of spur gears in there.
Yeah, he did.
But you can print those. You know, there's gear generators on Thingiverse, and you can print those things out on your printer with no problem. They're very fast and they're easy to do. And if
I was thinking more along the lines of some 2020 and some teeth and some T-nuts and a few other things to be able to build example structures of things and that kind of stuff. And then, like you're saying, throw some gearing at it, you know?
Yeah. So I'm just saying for that, 3 plastic gears would be fine. And you can get, like I say, you can either, there's a couple of ways you can go on that. You can, I believe, get the step files for the gears for Vex and probably some of the other companies too, and just print it out. Or you can use a gear generator off of Thingiverse and print out something custom. So that's that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that when I saw that and I got inspired a little bit more, so it got me thinking about it a little bit more and that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm going to think about it some more, maybe make some more steps toward it. You know, in I say copious free time. It's not, you know, that doesn't really work. But you know, it's just one of the things in the back of my head that I thought I needed one of these mechanical sets to kind of play with some stuff, and maybe I don't. So, you know, I tend to do things like, what's the next step I can take on a thing, and can I take it right now? The answer to that is usually I know what the next step is, and then if I can't take it right now, or if I got something else that's blocking me, I'll stash it away in my note-taking things over here as the next step to take and what I need, and it'll sit there until I get inspired or some other kind of thing comes around and goes, oh, I can take that next step now. And we talk about it. Right?
Here you got your next step.
Yeah. So
your next step is to de-Legoize
the thing. Yep.
That, and so that by the time you do that, you'll know that design really well, and you'll know how to do it. And you can 3D print all the parts you need.
Yeah, that is very true. I can certainly do that. In fact, I don't have that.
And you got 10 little motors too.
And speaking of that, this just came off that Ender 3. You know, the print and play stuff just kills me, man.
Yeah.
I have yet. I still got some of that stuff. I'm going to do it eventually. I'm going to print some of that stuff. It works pretty good.
Yeah.
It does. And there's not a lot of force on the thing, and it's not gonna like it. And that doesn't need to run 100,000 miles or hours or any of that kind of stuff either. So these plastic gears should be just fine.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's using plastic gears.
Oh yeah. And he does it in 1.2 seconds. Holy crap. And I like his design too, because he's using one camera angle, and he knows he can see all 6 sides of the cube from one angle, and the mirrors that are there. I like that.
I was going to say in the mirror, yeah.
Because you see, that's the way. Like on the one I had, you had to position the cube 9 times, and on this, he's getting it.
He gets it in one picture.
Yeah.
Throw some. I would say I want to say machine learning or AI or something at it to be able to detect all those things.
No, I think if you know the positions of the cubes, there's algorithms on how to solve the problem.
Solve the thing. Yep.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you're throwing AI at the once it knows where the positions are. There's just an algorithm. It's just detecting what colors are on what faces, and to be able to recognize those.
Yeah.
And
I think if it has mirrors as part of the solution, it needs to have smoke as well. So it should use the.
Well, I think that's what you do after it solves it. After it solves it, you have it give a big puff of smoke.
Puff of smoke, and then it's just done. Yeah,
You know?
that's smoke and mirrors. That's what it needs.
Actually, the pièce de resistance would be to mix it all up again before you give it back.
Well, I still want one that peels the labels off and puts them back on. That would really be interesting.
Now, Carl, you just made it hard, man. Come on, just made it hard.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Well, that's cool.
Thank everybody.
I don't know about you guys, but I say let's award Charles the Black Star for his end effector.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Goodness.
All right.
Thank you.
Just don't get in the way of when he turns that thing on.
That's right.
Pressure.
It's going to be one
Not,
scary
at least make
robot.
sure he puts in those pressure sensors.
Yeah, I don't know when I'll be able to afford that $300 price tag of the next servo motor.
Yike.
Yeah.
One thing
Now
though,
you should be sitting there thinking, why didn't I pick up those 2 motors on the Saturday? Why was it?
Yeah. Well, I gave those away.
Yeah, you were giving them away, right?
Yeah, they went into the DMS free pal.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the square shafts on those guys, but you know they'd be a good fit for if you had the Vex gears, because all the Vex gears have square shafts. But
yeah, well the other thing about it, the nice thing about why they did that was you put it in one side. Otherwise, you know, usually like if you have two motors like this, one of them's got to turn one direction and the other one's got to turn the other direction. On this one, you just flip the motor over and I don't know, but the shaft's supposed to take care of that.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of that, Charles, did you ever find a site that had like servo motors where the shaft did go through? It just didn't come out one side, but.
yeah, I've seen one motor like that that's actually in the affordable ballpark.
Oh, was that on that website, the AM whatever?
No, or I saw that, but
yeah, most of the ones that I see, they're like the windshield wiper motors. You know, it's one side. So
yeah,
and the only way to make that work with 2 of them is to flip, rotate one. So not quite as good. Okay.
the nice thing about that AM line is they make a left and right of all their motors, except for that servo one.
Oh, really?
But
that would figure, right?
They said they're working on it.
Okay, guys.
I think it's time.
I'm getting tired.
Yeah. Okay, Carl, do we have it recorded?
I'm going to hit stop recording now. So I think this should be stopped.